And welcome back to the Daily Transcendence podcast. Today we have a special guest.
Special.
Very. His name is Charlie Buccola. Um, he is a dear friend of me personally. I know he's met Gio through me in a sense, and he actually met me with music. We started a band together thanks to Rob, and actually, you know what's funny, thanks to Jersey Mike's and Bubba Coos.
See that? Fast food is good for you guys.
Yeah.
It can be good for the soul.
Happened with me there too, and
and shit,
Damn, it all comes full circle. That's craziness.
Yeah.
No, but we got together in a band, and then Ray transitioned to being more our producer for the band, and then and we just made a great friendship from there. Realized we were on the same page with a lot of stuff.
Same wavelength. And it's funny. It's because at first you see things happen in life, and they seem one way. And then as long as you kind of just let the path take you where it's supposed to take you, and it could be frustrating too. Cause I know when we had the band and we were doing, I was playing guitar, we were writing, doing every weekend we were jamming. And then, I had that decision where I'm like, I got to back off. And then, I didn't know about Florida yet. I was moving to Florida. So imagine if we kept going down that timeline and tried to force it, and me knowing kind of intuitively, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make through this. And my dad passed away. So like all that stuff goes on. But so at that point, when I dropped back and I was like, I'll do the producing role. Things, we kept doing the music together, but I was doing something else. And then we started getting into deep conversation. And that's how it really became a closer friendship, because we started realizing we thought very alike.
Yep. And those all day recording sessions where I couldn't seem to figure out my own guitar lines.
We all go through
ended up
it,
just going through like we ended up just getting into like some of the books you had, and it was crazy. And it's weird too, like you said, like sometimes things aren't what they seem. Like it was one of those things, like even you getting involved in the band wasn't really like in the plan, that like even the day of it happening. Like so Gio, I don't know if you've heard this story before, but like when we all got together, it was me, Rob, our friend Gallo, and another guy, Frank, that was supposed to be playing with us. And Frank ended up not being able to make it. Like we all got together, Frank wasn't able to make it, and Ray just happened to be hanging out. And he was like, I'll jam with you guys. That was kind of like how that happened. Like, Ray was friends with Gallo, for a while at that point. So he was just hanging out at the house when we all got together. So that band's still going on. Me, Rob, and Gallo are still going strong with Veronica Vaughn. But
I llove it.
Thank you.
I've heard a couple.
Classic name too.
Much.
I like the vibe of and especially because in your genre, which you would label it as what? Like I would call it more, punk rock, I say indie, right? Like in a sense, kind of alternative.
I would say like indie alternative. It's like got a grunge feel, it's got a punk feel. There's some stuff that has blues feel, like it's all over the place, but like we just make whatever makes us happy. So,
genres box musicians in. Yeah, but genres, they box musicians in. I think that's somewhat of it sets rules and all that, and I get that. But the musicians that think too theoretical, and then on top of that, we've decided we're starting a rock band. It's like, well, keep your mind open.
I've never understood that. I've been in bands where it's like we're a metal band, and it's like, but what if I have another idea? What do I do with that? I think as humans, we like to categorize. It was one of the first skills we learned that separated us from the animals. It was one of the first skills that we learned that like really started to give us dominance, because we were able to categorize and recognize groups of things very quickly, gather information, use that for our hunting or for war or for whatever it was in the early days of humans. And I think we still have that like little primitive part that's just like, this is blue and this is red and this is rock and this is rap and this is country. And it's like, but as a musician, like, I think the big thing is like, you should be playing, like that's the key word when you say I play in a band. Like, I don't work in a band, I play in a band. I enjoy myself, and art is supposed to be playful. It's supposed to be this thing that brings you back to like when you were a kid, when you could just imagine anything. Like, you just had your GI Joe or your Barbie or whatever you had, and you just made up a scenario and like played. And that's what music is to me. It's like, I get this idea in my head of, sometimes it's a scene of a movie that doesn't exist in my head. I can't do anything with movies. I'm like, but what would be the soundtrack of that dope scene I just thought of?
Dude,
right,
I used to do that
song,
I used to do that at parties where I'd be at my buddy Jimmy's house and there would be an acoustic. So, at first he would call, I was always DJ Ray, because I'm being a musician, this, I was sensitive to music. So if there was something I didn't like, but I'm trying to have a good time, sit back, have a drink or two and all that at that particular moment, I wanted to be in control of the music. But if I didn't, or if it got less musical, I would grab the acoustic. And when people were having conversations, I would be sitting there trying to match the mood of the conversation if I could. And it would be like a secret test I'd be giving myself in the middle of a party, like having fun, like just using my imagination. Like, imagine if this was a scene and I could somehow, if this conversation was a song, how could I do something with it? But yeah, exactly. You're right.
Capture the mood a little, like, and that's one of the ways I write. Sometimes I just get an idea of a sentence, like something that I think is a cool line or something that means something to me, whatever it is, just pop in my head. And I'm like, all right, I'm building something around that. So like, I think the way I approach music, and lots of people approach it a lot of different ways, and there's no wrong way to do it. But like, the way I approach it is like a game. And if I come into it too stressed out, I'm not going to get really good quality stuff. But if I come into it just like open to it, enjoying what I'm doing, it's going to come out good to me. And that's, again, the most important thing is when you're making art, do you like what you're making? Like, are you enjoying the process? Are you enjoying the result? And if you're not enjoying all parts of it, like, you're kind of defeating the purpose of this beautiful thing that like all people can do, whether it's like, painting or drawing or music or like any type of art or any type of creation or any type of passion that a person has. And it can be literally anything. I know people that just have passion for organizing. Great. Organize the hell out of that room and enjoy it. Right there. Yeah. Organize it, bro. Like,
my computer
organize
is
the room and enjoy.
my computer, not here because this isn't my room, but like it's my computer, my bookmarks on my Firefox, and now Brave browser, because in the truth community, you gotta use whatever, you gotta hold your privacy because the Illuminati's coming after you. So now I'm using the Brave browser, but my bookmarks, everything. And it's funny because I think that came from music, because what's music? It's organizing sound. And it's like, you're trying to organize sound, but then also learn how to bring out emotion in it. So like, there's the logical aspects to music, and then there's that creative it's a holistic art. And most of art is where you have to use your imagination, but then you also have to use your logic, because you have to obviously have those, like you said, those labels, this blue is blue, red is red. You have to know your logical things, just like with music. You even have to know basically like geometry, 3/4, 4/4, if you're playing a prog, if you're playing progressive music or something, but fractions, you got to know everything. And it could teach you so much. And it makes you very attentive. And it's probably why a lot of artists are attentive to a lot of things. We're the weird thinkers of the human race.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, I think it's every artist's, I wouldn't say responsibility, but I feel some responsibility as an artist to like create something whether people are like, oh my God, this is it, like this is the new thing or not, like my responsibility is to myself to make the music that I think is good and then put it out there, because you know, who knows, in 100 years, what if that's the only file left of humanity? Make as much stuff as you can, make everything, go out and like press it on vinyl and tape so it doesn't deteriorate when a solar flare comes and it's all gone.
Which, you know, who knows? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. A solar flare knocks out the grid. What do we have that's going to get left behind? Like what happens in 1,000 years? How do they remember us?
And
how do they learn from us?
But talk about Psycho real quick. Is I actually am going to buy a hard drive and I'm going to like wrap it in like 10 layers of foil and like have my most important things. So if an EMP or sun flare comes and wipes out all the information, I'm going to try and have like these hard drives just covered in shit, so like to try and prevent exactly. And if I don't survive, at least like you're saying, at least the hard drive.
Something. I mean, like, I think art is one of the things that like, we don't think about it, but like that's one of the main ways we learn about the past is finding the art, the cave drawings, things depicting the times, things depicting how people were thinking or feeling at the time. And I think every artist has a responsibility to just make as much stuff as you can, because in 1,000 years, somebody might learn something from it, if nothing else. And best case, like somebody likes it. There's tons of people like everything. I've seen some weird stuff get liked. So just do it. Like, what's there to lose,
Yeah, we have an odd liking today to things, I question people's opinions on what's good and what's not, how everything's automated. They're taking the human like out of everything. Like the AI thing is like for real, because even with music, it's funny. One of the is Spectre Studios. It's a YouTube channel. And he was talking about how it's like, stop auto tuning, stop gridding all the way. Like it's good, but find that balance. And that's what I'm like starting to creep into is like, we have to do, that's right. We do have to keep the human in things, because like you're saying, let's say 1,000 years, actually everything survives, but everything's technological and automated. Let's save like what it was like to be a human when we were human. And, exactly. Have our art reserved for that time. Maybe it'll, maybe in the AI age, will spark someone to remember or to be influenced by like, wow, it sounded really good to be actually human instead of having, a chip in my brain and, have like an automated fleshlight for when I wake up every morning.
Well, I mean, who doesn't want that? No, it's terrible.
But I want an organic one.
Yeah, no, for real. No, that's the thing. Like, it's scary out there. Like I think about AI all the time. I don't know a ton about it, but I think about it. Like I think about nobody's coming up with regulations for any of it. Like how advanced does it get before somebody goes, hey, it's going to be too late by the time we get to a point where we're like, hey, something's up here. Like, maybe be a little proactive.
There's so many examples of what can possibly go wrong. Like no heeding of the warning. But the thing you're saying about like music, I think that's what I think is so like stronger of the arts music is the fact that it literally is like something that once it's heard, it can't really be like destroyed, like say something like a painting or something along that lines, or a writing of something. Like, yes, it can in a way physically be destroyed and stuff.
But
yes, but there's exactly. But not only that though, like it has more of an ability to like touch on more senses when it comes to having whatever expression it's giving off. Somebody can feel it. They can feel the music, not only just vibrationally too and stuff, but like the fact that it channels a message to them as well of whatever they're thinking, whatever an image pops up. So they're getting like all the senses. They're feeling it. Shit, they might even be able to start tasting something. You know what I mean? But it's like, true. And it's like, there's certain, pictures and other arts and things and stuff that I could do like that. But music has so much of all the other aspects. I was like telling Ray the other day, like that because art, you know, there's the different forms of art, and like math is part of it, geometry obviously, which is part of that, and stuff, you know, drawing, writing, sciences, stuff like that, and astrology was one of them. But it said the most important like aspect that embodies a little bit of everything is always music somehow.
Yeah.
And
yeah. No, it's true. It's we're a sound, like the people are all about sounds. I mean, you know, you go to like the like more indigenous cultures and stuff like that, and like they have this reverence for music that, you know, and I think people still have a reverence for music, and it's one of the few art forms people have like a true reverence for. But like you're saying with auto tune and like all of this stuff, like it's a neat effect. It's cool to use from time to time, but like when you're doing like your entire album is auto tuned, it's like, at what point did I hear you sing? Like at what point did I hear what you're actually bringing to this? You know, like I get
true expression. You know, like our
like
nuances,
where's the feel?
Yeah, but like a human nuance is what makes the human unique. You know, and that's like the issue. And also on top of that, let's go obvious here, is something that's automated or that's being tampered with like that, you're giving the stage to people that aren't even artistically adept. And what that's doing is you're starting a trend of like, you know, this person doesn't even have to be good at the art. And if they're not, this is my whole thing with it, is like, if they're not good at the art in itself already, they're probably not an artist, which means they probably don't have the thought capacity as much as an artist would. And I'm going to say that, and it might be a little egotistical, but no, it's like all of the artists in the world do work hard. And then what that does is you're developing a whole section of the mind that school never developed for us. I mean, we go to school and things, they teach us just how to regurgitate and learn authoritarian, you know, living, like of how to be told what to do and what to think. And what the artist, why we always all become rebels and why we start fighting against the machine is truly because we were taught by the art itself to think for ourselves. You know, and like we're not only affecting people's emotions, but we're making cultures happen. You know, and that's what I mean about like with the AI. Like what AI could do is give the wrong people the power, and that is even in the art forms.
Because the art itself, especially music, really does, like, the art itself teaches you in its complexity. So like if you're taking the complexity out of, like, say something like the music today and stuff, especially with trap and all that mumble rap shit, like there a lot of the, you know, real challenging aspects of the music and like things that you can learn and pick up on by listening to it, like it's become so like dull and nullified to the point that it's not even something like you're saying, Ray. Like it's setting up an example to be like, oh, this is music. This is music. This is really all there is. And so, especially when you're hearing it constantly repetitive through a bunch of different people, it gives the aspect of being like, oh, well, you know, that's rap. And people don't get, the new generations aren't getting that type of education through the art itself of what you're capable of doing from it, what emotions you're capable of playing on through different sounds and putting things together as well.
What frequency you're on.
Yeah. It's just, I feel like it's a serious suppression, and it's definitely being influenced to come out that way.
People underestimate the power of music, and that's the thing. Even with your band, Charlie, Veronica Vaughn, you're trying to, you know, bring back the element of when you were growing up. How you're saying it brought up the past, or it does bring up the past. Is like, so you're bringing elements from, say, early to late 90s and all that, because we both
stuff from the 80s even too, like
because you were influenced, right? So that stuff holds not only parts of that culture, but it's holding separate emotions that may not be even being felt today. And that's what music's going to spark. So I know that because I've, you know, obviously I've recorded a bunch of your music, and you're trying to hit these aspects. And it's the I could see what it would do if we lived in a normal world. That is, if people actually had a real ear. It's genuine and authentic music. And I would say that one of your goals, I would assume, is to affect and even help a lot of people, because that music did the same thing for you. Right.
Well, yeah, you always want to help people. Like, music was a big part for me. And the thing is like, I like all genres of music. Like, and I even like some new rap, and I think we could all agree that, like, we're not saying like all music today is bad. There's plenty of ridiculously talented musicians out there,
even
making
rap.
really good. Oh my God. Yeah. I love so much rap, and even some of the mumble rap. I like guilty pleasures. There are certain things.
Yeah. They're like quickies.
But that's different. That's different. Like you said, guilty pleasures. Like
some of it's impressive noise. Like that. Like that's how I categorize it. It's not necessarily what I would consider like artful, but the noises in it are impressive, and I can dance to it. So it's like, I'm willing to make the compromise from time to time.
Yeah, the creativity's there, but it's a matter of like, when you get too much of one thing, then it ends up becoming bad for you. And I think that's but it's like, can't we be versatile? Like, it's where that whole genre thing maybe does come into play a little bit, because it's like, all right, we've had a little too much of an abundance of, say, mumble rap talking about, shooting your friend because he didn't sell the drugs you had for him and he banged your bitch. And
is that what they're rapping about?
Is that what they're I mean, if that's, who knows? That could be
you tell me. I might be wrong. Maybe I'm delusional.
Well, you can't tell what they're saying, so
yeah. Like the thing is
lean,
like,
I don't something.
I think it's weird because like when rap came out, it was more like sort of this like this sounding off of a culture that wasn't being looked at, and like things that were happening in this culture that weren't being looked at in the mainstream. And it was almost like these people came out and they were like, yo, we're getting on the bullhorn and we're telling you exactly what's going on. And they did it with these like NWA and like all of the early rappers. Like they had this message, Tupac, Biggie, they had this message of like, this is what's going on and we need to bring attention to it. Like, we don't necessarily love what's happening, but we're embracing it because it's what we have, kind of a thing.
It was a weapon.
Like, well, yeah, it had to be.
Especially during the LA riots.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with, like, I think rap is an amazing, and for it to be as new as it is, it's the newest type of music, really. Like you think about, like, you had classical and then like rock and, like, you have blues and then you had rock and roll, but like rap came out in the 80s,
yeah,
like late 70s, early 80s. It's like, all right, like, it's so new that it has room to evolve. And like, maybe we're not seeing, maybe this is like a middling phase and rap is gonna take this next evolution. And I'm willing to watch it, but my thing is I don't want inauthentic music, is what I'm saying. Like, if you're using auto-tune in a way that feels to me like, okay, you're doing this for a reason, you're doing this to like get something across, whether it's how you're feeling or like, great. But like, if you're just using it, like, you could almost tell when it's disingenuous and lazy. Like, you can almost like listen to two songs back to back and be like, that guy was into it and that guy wasn't, or like, so
you can kind of tell when they're not completing words and sentences, and almost like it starts it's like a sentence, and all of a sudden I just can't hear the tail. And it's just exactly. Like, it ends up being just a flutter and a noise, but it was in tune, so it was good, and like, and how powerful music is even with that, right? So these guys are half the time nowadays, and not all of it, I'm not discrediting it. I mean, like, dude, I'll call out JID, J. Cole, Hobson, and all white kids like Hobson, but yeah, I like Hobson. Who was my big guy recently? Nothing Nowhere isn't, he's kind of rappy. He's a white boy that raps. Jadakiss has been my guy.
It's good.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you said you were listening to the Rome episode of us, and we had talked a lot about the Jesuits. And you know, we're big in this, like, you know, we dive in and out of conspiracy and history. And he named his album Ignatius, and Ignatius Loyola actually was the founder of the Jesuits. And all of this things going around the community of the Jesuit order being, you know, having this pull. And it's funny that all those people do have a pull in music, so you never know. But back to the music thing is like, I mean, like, it's shaping even our culture as the white community. You know, I hate to separate us, but like, you know, as white boys, there's a lot of white kids dressing and acting black too. So what music could do to you, because it makes you feel a way. I mean, like you said, guilty pleasure, right? So like trap and all that stuff, what it does for me is it gets me hyped. It makes me want to take over the world. It makes me want to go, you know, like metal used to make me want to fight someone. Now, like sometimes trap, I'm like, I'll go fuck somebody up to listen to this.
Well,
know, like
and it's and that's the ones that are like capturing, like, and that's what I say when I say art needs to capture like what's going on around you, like trap music and like that kind of like more violent kind of like, and like even like the droning bass, and it's like, you know, boom, boom, like that kind of stuff. It goes back to, you know, when we were just drumming on things, and, you know, like it was mostly like percussion noises that we were making in early music. The cool thing about that is that it can elicit those emotions from you. And like, it's taking this like seemingly general emotion of like, kind of like, it's a mix of outrage and confusion and like you know, a general malaise about the world, and like all of these things coming together, sort of like in the 90s, like, you know, the 80s was done, like the super pop bands, you know, like, and like your hair metal bands were starting to fade away finally. And then the 90s came along, and you had this like coming out of Seattle where there's like just this heroin epidemic, but like also this ridiculous like new type of music, when grunge is coming out, like that genre of music. Again, we're talking about genres and categories, but like the music that was coming out at that time was reflective of how everybody was feeling. There was like this depressed, like apathy kind of thing going on. And then like when we got into like the modern day, like the stuff that's going on now, like I feel like the 2010s, most people don't remember the 2010s. I don't. And I'm like,
I just remember the metal because I was like, I played in a metal band. So like, I remember that. That's honestly really it.
You had like some good metal, and then like, it was just mostly like pop and kind of like nonsense. And now you have this like, this new music where it's like you have trap, and you have like some of the new pop that are using like this trap styling to it. And it's like, all over again, like the malaise of the 90s meets like the anger of the 70s, and you have 2021. You know,
I've heard comparisons. No, you're right, because like I've heard comparisons of like I've heard even some rappers like say, you know, they're the rock stars now. They're putting tattoos on their face, and there's mosh pits at the shows, and like I know
they're
Travis Scott 100%. And all them.
100% the rock stars now. There's no such thing as a rock and roll star anymore. I'm convinced of it. There's no, like, you know, it's just not what's in demand. But like, I honestly, but I do think that there's like a swell of people wanting genuine music, like like people wanting to like feel connected to the artist again. Like when I was younger, like an artist that I really connected with was Bright Eyes, and Bright Eyes was like super emo. The sad, he sounded like he was in a freezer, like he was like shivering and like sad, like that's how emo it was. But what I really enjoyed about it was there were these wild parts of his songs, but like he would fuck up in the studio, like he'd fuck up the chord or something, like, and he'd leave it in the recording. And it was to show you that art wasn't supposed to be perfect and polished. It was supposed to be this raw, like what he was giving you was this raw, like, okay, I'm reading you my diary, essentially. I'm giving you everything that's inside of me. And like, I'm doing it with such passion and gusto that like, it doesn't matter that I'm messing up notes. You are getting the message regardless. And
well, like life, like if you
yeah,
think about life, right? Like not every day is perfect, and like
exactly.
your emotions don't ride a straight line. Like, so if you automate everything today and like you play a song, what it's making you think is everything's automated into the point. And it's like, no, life is like that up and down. Sometimes you hit a sour note on a day or two, you know,
Yeah.
and that's what, and like you're saying, any type of art, anything. I mean, even like the old like painters or whoever, like Picasso, like you had like all those uneven and weird, odd looking thing. And somebody who doesn't really is not an art connoisseur is going to be like, what the hell is that? But it's like an artist is going to be like, that's like organized chaos. That is awesome, you know, and
100%. Yeah.
and that's the point, I think. And once again, the artists, coming back to that, is like we have the, why they maybe wanted to get rid of artists is because we have the true empowerment. I think someone's going to listen to an artist over a politic. That's like the truth, because you're going to get real inspiration from an artist, because through his art, he's going to tell you and show you that he feels the same way you do. And now you're going to start being influenced by him. You know, it changes the way you think. It changes the way you feel. And we live in a society that's so left brained. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, that's why they know that, that music is the easiest way to influence people. I know that's why things have been changed before. This is why I feel like they're also manipulating music even more so now in order to you know, get people on different agendas and stuff and participate in this fucking screen. So
yeah.
And you said, I was going to say real quick, Gio, you said, and just to get this out of the, like, cause you had said you had a disconnection from music.
Yeah.
And how like black and white, like Charlie, have you ever had a moment in time where you couldn't listen to music? Like, not that you couldn't, but like more so it was like nothing hit the spot. And that's what Gio was recently going through. And what does it do? It makes life black and white.
Yeah. Monochromes, everything.
Yeah. Even the fact that just even when you're not feeling great, and even if you're not trying to, like, you know, I have my music that pumps me up. Like one thing that I know that's consistent with me is, for some reason, and like I don't like really like EDM stuff that much anymore and stuff. Well, definitely not for the reasons that I used to. I mean, obviously it was just, you know, to me it was something that, you know, I like the beat and stuff, but it's the same thing like almost with metal. Like there's a lot of sometimes deep complexities and different instruments, but like more so the genre inside that is deep house. One, because I like the vibes. I like how it could be chill. I like how it could still have drops. I like how it, you know what I mean? Like, and that's something that, you know, I get a certain energy from a lot of these songs and stuff. Sometimes they're like, you know, empowered, sad. Sometimes they're like more, you know, energetic and, you know, want to get out and about, or summer vibe, something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that one I could say at least has been somewhat consistent, but there's a lot of times that I just like, I'm like, I feel like listening to music, especially when I don't want to listen to that, because I don't really want to all the time. I'm just like, I don't know, you know,
it's tough.
But now I feel like, you know, it's definitely come back a lot, and, you know, there's different moods and reasons and things. And I definitely see how it's like, you know, it's helped me through certain situations, and it's impactful, you know, and that's the reason why, you know, as we're discussing it, like it seems like the arts are under attack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Charlie, you use creativity to get out of funks. I mean, like there's listening, but you write music. You write your best music when you're, you know,
when I'm sad.
Yeah.
When I've got something going on. The thing is like, and I recently wrote a song about it, and it's basically like about, you know, not really being all that sad anymore. Like, cause I went through, you know, a lot of crap and got through it and turned a lot of things around. So I'm not going through a lot of like the weird, depressed, drunken, you know, wildness I was going through when I was writing a lot of really good stuff, in my opinion. And now, like, it was a legitimate fear of, and it almost like became a self-sabotaging of like, I'm terrified that because I'm happy, I'm not going to be able to produce or create good music. I'm not going to be able to relate to people anymore because I've overcome whatever it was that was holding me back.
Mm.
And I've actually found it to be the opposite. Like I found it to be, now that I'm like in a clearer headspace, like those ideas come to me a little bit better. It's easier to, with a clear head, draw off those past experiences. Just because I'm happy now doesn't mean that I was never sad. Like there's still wells of stuff to dig up there and play with, and there's stuff that in my past that I feel would be valuable to other people going through similar stuff. So I'm gonna write about it. And once I run out of stuff to write about, I'll probably just do what every other musician does and get super political. But
yeah, dude, we ended up doing an album called We the People, and the album art was one of the president, who was it? It was Obama at the time, was holding the Constitution, and it was on fire. And it was like, the picture was like real, like articulate. And it was, my one guitarist hated it too, because he was always like, simple is like the best way for album art. It's like, relax, it's art. So just let it, this is different. But it was like the Capitol building was in ashes, and he's holding the Constitution. We called it We the People. We put in a JFK speech in it. And like, yeah, you do go there. And that's when you're lacking. Well, actually, it's good you bring that up, because why do we get political? Because sometimes it's the only thing that's real. Like, it's one of the only issues.
The weather now.
Right. So it's like in your face every day. It's like, we know this by now. My next song is going to be about like, whispering. And I'm going to start, singing about how presidents whisper when he doesn't want to tell the truth. But the thing is, like,
the song Presidential Whispers.
Oh, right. There you go. See, and now you're getting artistic with it.
Start the song off with it, like.
But I think one of the reasons music is as powerful as it is because, I mean, it's sound. It's legitimately pointing energy at somebody and literally shooting energy at them. Like, you're shooting the energy of sound, and then you're manipulating that sound. You're taking that energy, and like, as like a sound wave has a ton of different forms and a ton of different effects on its surroundings, like physically, and I believe, metaphysically or spiritually, or whatever you want to call it. And it's because you're pointing energy, and the best example I have of it, and obviously it's anecdotal, because how do you measure something like this? But like, best evidence I have is being on stage. So I'm on stage in front of a bunch of people that are like, they want to hear music, right? Mm. And what I do is I take all the energy it took to create that song, right? So I'm taking the energy of the song, like the physical sound waves, but I'm also taking all the energy, all the work, it's the culmination of all the work that it took to make this song. And now I'm presenting it to people, right? So now there's all that energy now added on top of the sound wave energy, and I'm blasting it at those people. And what happens is, when you have something that's resonating with people and people are like, oh man, this is good. What happens is they start taking that energy in, and they mix it in with all their good vibes, and they literally just shoot it right back at you in the form of cheers and screaming and dancing and all of the crazy things people do at a show. And I catch it, or the band catches it, or any musician catches it, or live performer catches it. And again, you're taking it and you're adding a little bit more and throwing it back. And you're basically playing like this game of catch with this energy that just keeps growing and growing and growing. And then by the end of the night, everybody's sweating. Everybody feels like this ridiculous, like that last note of a song at a show that you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest night of my life. It's a catharsis. It's like, oh my God, that last note, like the night is over, like everything has been released from me. And like, I just got done playing this ridiculous game of like catch or badminton with this massive energy ball with all of these people, most of them strangers who I now love for some reason. And it's just like that's the power of music is in a half hour, a band can, or an hour or 2 hours, whatever the set is, a band can take these people or a musician or a singer or a pianist or whatever it is, they could take these people, send that energy back and forth, and it's powerful. In the wrong hands, you can manipulate those people. Like there are disingenuous people that just happen to be super talented, and they use that for bad. I mean, you see like these great orators, like people who are great at talking and giving these presidential speeches or whatever. They also have now that ability because it's almost like a hypnosis. So now I have this, like, I've given you this energy and you've given me the energy back. And we have this like unspoken agreement between us. And now I have a pathway to get in there and get in your head and like do something good or do something bad. And I think it's every person, every performer, speaker, musician's responsibility to understand the power that you're actually using in those situations and to use it for good. Let those people leave in a positive energy and like feeling good. Like even in like metal shows where like the subject matter is like, I've been to shows where every single song has been about Satan and murdering anybody that you hate, or punching people that you hate, or hate. And everybody at the end is smiling and hugging. And it's like, how do you do that? Well, it's because even though the subject matter of the song might have been hateful or angry or whatever it is, you're playing it to these people that are feeling something and they need a catharsis. And at the end, everybody is catharted a word? I don't know, but, everybody has done it,
Dude, I just talked about this on the last episode because I was trying to, like, the same way you're saying it, because it's like there is a game of energy, like where what you're kind of doing like a tuning fork is, not only when did you write the song, you had energy going into the writing itself. So the song itself has this signature, but then you come and play it live, and now you actually have your physical present signature playing it. So you have the signature of the song, whatever that is. And then you have your signature. Now you're projecting both out. And then what it is, I think, and why we like songs is because the magical word of resonate, it resonates. And what that's doing is if someone's vibrating a certain emotion and frequency inside of them, like, catharsis is a great word, by the way. So it's cathartic to them accessing it, feeling it. But then at the same time, because you have a room full of the same types of people, or at least the people who like the same types of stuff, because they feel the same way, everyone's now accessing that. They know the room is feeling it with them. And now not only are they, allowed to let it out and feel it, but they're actually feeling it with a group of people. And now they feel like they have like a family, or like it's being shared. And I talked about the law of resonance, and I'm going to bring it up real quick and we'll read it real quick. But the law of resonance works perfect with this because it's exactly what you're looking for. So the law of resonance, like all their universal laws, once stood, will provide you with a greatly enhanced ability to begin consciously, intentionally, and consistently attracting and experiencing. So obviously we attract. I love that aspect. If you're feeling these frequencies, you're going to resonate and attract. But I guess I could probably say it better than the article is kind of like, you have two acoustics in a room. You hit the one acoustic, you hit a note, and the other one starts to vibrate at the same frequency. So now you're getting everybody in tune with, and that's what I was going to actually look for, but I could say it better. But like, yeah, you're the law of resonance. That's what it is, man. And everyone feels it on that level.
And actually what I was saying too, like where it's like dangerous is the dissonance is, so you have your resonance and you have your dissonance also. So on the lowest scale of like how it could be bad is, let's say I go up on stage and I'm in a bad mood and I can't shake it. Well, guess what? That energy is also sticking itself to my songs, and it might come through, and it might kind of mess with the vibe of the entire room. Because now I'm on an amplifier and I'm essentially sending my bad vibes on, piggybacked on this song that people want to hear. So now they're openly receiving my, whatever mood I'm in. If I'm not on, or, people catch on to that very quickly because they're literally receiving your energy. And it's sort of like what you were saying, if I put those two same acoustic guitars and I hit the A string and nothing on the other guitar was tuned to A, you'd get a weird dissonant tone out of the second guitar. Good. It would be not A coming back, you know? So that's the other thing, is like, you have to be in tune. And it could be the same thing. Like, you know, I'm sure if we've all been to metal shows, we've all been to that show where one or two people were not on the same frequency of everybody. Everybody was trying to have a good time. And then all of a sudden there's a fight, or all of a sudden there's a brawl, or all of a sudden there's a bad incident because there were like one or two people that were not resonating, like, or they were resonating right away. They were slightly out of tune.
I could always it was just that.
It's it. Right. Exactly. You can scope those people out usually.
Now, when you go into a show though, are you already coming into with a preset type of set, or like, hey, like we're gonna play this, and like these songs and stuff, like the order that we're gonna play in, though, we're gonna go based off of, you know, the crowd? Like, are we going to kind of gauge the crowd? Like, how would you go into it, especially if you want to engage with the crowd?
So generally speaking, the way I do it is you have your set, you know, and what you do is you structure that set in a way that you kind of want the night to go. You know, you have your peaks and valleys kind of a thing. So you don't want to obviously front load all your best stuff right in the beginning and then close out with like a love ballad and everybody's going for a smoke break for the last song. So you kind of got to like, you spread it out a little bit, but that being said, it's not set in stone. It's, you know, if I get up on stage and I'm like, ooh, this crowd is not going to be feeling this song for whatever reason,
yeah,
I'll call an audible and be like, yo, let's replace this with this before we even start playing. Or like, let's say we get 2-3 songs in and we're starting to lose the crowd. I'll be like, yo, I know this song was supposed to come number 6, but we're losing them. Let's pull them back in with something, you know? So I would say the way I do it is I write a set with that in mind, like, to, you know, in a perfect world, or like, you know, if everybody seems to be chill, we'll just go this roller coaster I built. And if things are starting to go off the rails, I'll build a new portion of the roller coaster on stage.
Yeah, it makes sense though. It makes sense. That would be the you know, smarter thing to do. Obviously you can, you know, kind of pre-plan out, I guess, a set to have that where you're like, oh, well, this song, because, you know, it could be more of a build up, and this song is kind of like the peak of it, and then this song, like, you know, these songs kind of help make us go out with a bang. Like,
I guess you have like your last run of like 2-3 songs. You know, you might have written some songs in the same key that live sound really cool if you just let that last note sing and then just go right into the next song. You know, people like that continuity kind of thing. So sometimes you do it by accident, sometimes you do it on purpose, but like, you know, it's all things that like one of my favorite things about playing live is trying to build the set list and, like, you know, thinking about like, all right, where am I going to be? What's the locale like? Have I ever played here before? Is there like kind of a set crowd that I've seen here? Like, okay, what would work best for this type of, you know, of group, you know?
Yeah. It's like making love to the crowd too. Think about it, right? So even if you think in an intimate way, right? You know, you want to foreplay, you know, build it up, get to the meat and potatoes, and then climax. Exactly. Or you find a hooker on the street and it's just climax, hit her with it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Or, you know, you just get really drunk and, you know,
and then you just
go wild up there. You know,
right.
To send a whole new type of energy out to the world.
Analogies, man. Analogies for me has been the best teacher. And what, like how you're saying, you know, you're gauging things out because you're using your imagination. And most people don't realize how much thought goes into it and how much awareness. And actually that brings me to where I want to talk about the story you told me recently with the psilocybin, where you had a realization too, because even as an artist, we all know that sometimes drugs can really enhance. I would say the awareness, you know, people want to say just because it makes you feel a certain way, it makes you feel good, but you tap into different layers of consciousness. And sometimes when you do that, you have this new awareness, and new awareness can bring breakthroughs. And then it can lead to really good breakdowns in a song. But like, I'm just saying, so you have breakthroughs and, you had said that you recently had, got rid of some of your anxiety, and it was due to an experience you had. Not, I think people would appreciate hearing that.
So it was strange. So I had when I was like younger, like maybe like 7-8 years ago, I had tried LSD and had an interesting experience, but like I was with a bunch of people that weren't on LSD. Some people were messing with you. Some people, it just wasn't like the best setting for that type of thing. I got some stuff out of it. Like at that time I had shed, after that, I had realized I needed to shed a bunch of friends that like weren't really friends. It kind of like opened my eyes to some stuff. But for the most part, I didn't have a great time. And it was really mostly because of the people that were around me. But this time I decided to try psilocybin for the first time. And but I'm in my own house, I have my wife here, like it's a fully safe setting kind of a thing. So I already knew I was going to have a much better time because I'm in a better mind state than I was. I still have anxiety. I still struggle with like that kind of thing, depression. I still struggle with it, but like I have a better handle on it than I did when I was younger. But the psilocybin, I realized kind of two things. One of them was that set and setting is important all the time. So one of the things that like I kept hearing before doing psilocybin was it's set and setting, set and setting, set and setting. What that means is, you want to be in a good place mentally and physically. You want to be somewhere where you're comfortable, somewhere where, you're not going to freak out or get paranoid. Like you want to be in your comfort zone and around people that make you comfortable. And these all sound like really good ideas when you're doing something that's going to alter your mind. But then like when I was on it, like I kind of got the realization as I walked around that set and setting were super important all the time. Because one thing I did leading into the trip was I set up little stations around the whole house. So one station was for like pencil drawing, one station was for charcoals, one station was for painting. I had my my guitars plugged into amps already. I had my keyboard set up. I had literally everything, recording stuff all set up before I did it, just so that if I got any type of inspiration on any medium, I could just walk over to my station and do the thing. And doing that while I was on it, like it kind of just revealed to me like, hey, this is really convenient. Like, why wouldn't you do something like this all the time? Why wouldn't you set your life up to be this, like all these great things? And what was kind of cool was I realized that I had actually built little shrines almost around my house to the things that I love. I love drawing. I love painting. I love music. And I set up all these little shrines around my house. And when I was on the trip, it was revealed to me that I almost did like a little ritual, like ancient times. Like they always said rituals were very, very important for taking these types of experiences, because the ritual kind of sets you down a path that you're going to continue in a very intense way,
right,
once you take it. So, that's why they say set and setting is so important, because it's putting you on that path. It's putting your mind and your intention down some path. My path was all of these things, but also it revealed to me one of my big anxieties is starting a project. I don't like once I'm in the project, fine, but I'll pace for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, break out in the sweats, get stomach cramps just to go pick up my guitar and play some music. Like I'll get that from time. Like, and if it's something that I know I have a deadline for, like, oh, I got to get this piece done. Like, somebody ordered, somebody ordered a custom, art piece or something, like I have to get working on that. Like, oh no, like the anticipation of starting is terrifying to me. And as I was walking through the house on this trip, I was looking at all of my little stations, and I was giggling to myself about how silly it is that I think it's difficult to start any one of these tasks. It was almost like I put little shrines to all the tasks I get nervous about starting up, so that I could look and see how actually simple it is to start those tasks. So like, then I got like this, I didn't get very many hallucinations, but I got one that was basically, it was a kid playing Mario Kart. It was a little kid playing Mario Kart with a controller, and he loses, and like there's an older person playing with them, and the kid smashes the controller. He's getting all mad. He's flipping out, and the older person, in my own voice, says to the kid, "It's not that important. It's just a game." And for whatever reason, that, like, I started hysterically laughing in my house, and I looked at my wife and I was like, "Do you remember when we used to get upset and nervous about this silly game?" And it made me realize that I am the child and the adult in that situation. I'm the kid breaking my controller every time something doesn't go my way, or every time something is not exactly how I want it to be. I'm the kid breaking the controller, but there's also another me inside, or whether it's outside, wherever it is, there's another me going, "Dude, that's not that big a deal. Like, what are you really upset about right now? Like, what are you really upset?" And honestly, like, for the next like week and a half, I mean, even now, like, my anxiety is a lot less than it normally is. And it's been great, because another thing that I kind of noticed was, with that lessening of anxiety, I became a better singer. Like, I went to rehearsal with the band the other day, and it was noticeable, to the point that like the whole rest of the band was like, "What did you do? Like, you're singing so much better. You're not losing your voice on certain things." And another thing, like, if anybody that's listening has ever seen me play live or anything, I tend to get really sweaty on stage. And normally I just chalk that up to like the lights, things like that. But I've also noticed that, like, when I get really anxious, I break out into like these full body sweats. And we practiced in a garage in like 80 degrees, and not a bead of sweat was on my head that entire set, where normally I'd be drenched, I'd have blown out a shirt. So like, it made me realize that, like, even though I don't necessarily feel anxious getting up on stage, like, it more feels like excitement to me. That is still like, it's still too intense, and it's causing me to be anxious on stage, and it was limiting me, like, as far as like hitting higher notes, or screaming for a little bit longer, or holding a note, like things like that. Like, because when you're anxious physically, like, your airways get constricted. So not having that anxiety and not being in that full body sweat, I was able to sing in a way I've never sung in my life. And it's crazy that like that experience helped me with that, but it also helped me in managing the anxiety by kind of showing me, I guess, and it's something that I needed to see, like, I was being kind of silly. And like, not to say that people with anxiety are being silly in any way. I suffer from anxiety. It sucks. But sometimes, your brain, or whatever, whatever it is you tap into when you're on one of those trips, tells you things in a way that you need to hear them. And it tells you things in a way that you need to like take in that information. And it tells you from a place that's not attached to any human, where you can't say like, that's a flawed human telling me that, and you can make an excuse for yourself. It's coming from somewhere and at the time, it's a very real experience, that it's coming from somewhere and you don't know where it's coming from. So you can't question it. Like, you almost, like, you can't deny what's being told to you, because it's full truth. It's like, it's right from the tap truth.
Yeah.
It's like your consciousness is giving you the access to it because it knows what you need to hear, because exactly. Yourself. So you're unlocking actually a part of your own consciousness and your own awareness. That's what it really is. Gio, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, it made me think about it when you were saying, because you're like about, you tend to get really like sweaty and stuff. And it made me think about like, in other times before that, having, when you're performing stuff like your vocal cords tightening up, or, airways restricting and stuff like that was like the body's like response mechanism, I guess you could say, for those stresses in those moments, but being able to use the adrenaline to like also do what you have to do. And it's crazy. I just thought how it's crazy how the energy of the stressor went from doing those things to kind of, there's been like this new parasympathetic response in your body to have it just go towards your skin. It's like almost like there was a way you directed your energy to be able to still use that energy no matter what, that response in your body. And it's like instead it goes towards your skin, because your skin's an organ, and therefore the stress release is through that way instead. And that's the funny thing, because it's like these are the things that we are capable of doing with our brains, and we don't really actually succumb to our anxieties or traumas or even illnesses and disease. Like, it was funny because you were saying that whole thing about like you were seeing yourself as a kid, but also as an adult. There's literally this part, and it's so crazy. Something made me bring my Joe Dispenza book, but there's a part in it where he talks about this moment he had where he literally was able to, because time happens, these timelines of ourselves actually happen simultaneously. He explained the situation of being able to meditate and see himself as a little kid. He remembered being sick because he was sick at the time. And he sat there and was able to see himself on the couch watching whatever was on the TV. And it was like he was there, and he was able to get up from that, seeing the kid in the TV, and then going outside and then looking up and seeing himself. And what he was seeing when he was seeing himself, like older version now, was literally him just earlier doing the dishes. And when he came back, he remembered how he was how he looked up when he was doing the dishes during those times. So it's like and he talks about how you're able to program the brain in that way to do that, and all the benefits of it. And I think it's the most amazing thing. And it goes down to understanding this whole innate intelligence that exists, this simulation reality, to all the quantum effects that go on with it and stuff. And that's why this whole breakdown of that, and of this matrix, and going into it, and thought-provoking things of, talking about these things, I think allows us to be able to build up that creativity and that imagery we need in our head also to perform some of these things. And biggest way for people to that and the easiest way, I think, for most people to tap into it is through the arts, and artists have an advantage, I feel, of that. Imagery,
and it gives you the easy access to find things that you relate to, because sometimes words cannot describe or help. Like sometimes words it's just not the answer. You're going to need something that hits the senses. So something like an art form is going to hit, we talked about senses, and with the whole body thing, I do think with I've heard Dispenza say that the body is actually the subconscious mind itself. Like your body is the unconscious mind. So things that are going on in the body, say something like this anxiety that you can't control and all that, like what has happened is in the depths of your subconscious, something that is stuck in, maybe been repressed, because, and I've recently learned the difference. Like depressed is when you know what's bothering you, but you're kind of not facing it. But repressed is actually when you don't even know what's there. You don't even know and a lot of people do that. You eventually, like from childhood, you repress, and you just let it go and leave it. And if the body is the unconscious or subconscious mind, then, I mean, you're living out these anxieties and don't realize that you're feeling a certain way. And what something like a drug could do. And we've all heard, by the way, music been referred to as music as a drug. It could help like any substance and this is why music is so special, it's going to help you tap into that subconscious and unconscious. And that's where you're going to have those breakthroughs. But what's unique to your experience, Charlie, is that you had a visual and that visual had an impact. So it's like this innate intelligence, this, this connection to the matrix and your soul in that combination of being in this avatar, use thoughts and images that it kind of knew, or maybe you knew unconsciously, that would help you tap the, break that branch of anxiety inside of you. And it's funny because that's a great example. It's why I wanted you to tell that story, because you really think about it. It's like, there's just something in your subconscious mind. If you're having depression or anxiety, that might just need to be accessed. And I'm not saying go out and eat mushrooms. I'm not saying that, but you can, I see no issue with drugs if you're going to use them to somehow, better, have some betterment to it, some expectation of this is going to give me some experience where it's going to better my life opposed to destroy it. I mean, so like,
exactly.
And that's,
and if you're going to do it, be careful, really research what it is you're going to do. Make sure you're getting it from somewhere you trust. Make sure you're with people you trust. Make sure, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm not going to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't do. But if you're going to do it,
but it did work.
It's good to be smart about. Yeah. Like don't devalue I had a great experience. But there's people that and then I like with psilocybin, it's not so much a bad trip, but it's a difficult trip. It's a trip where like you're always faced with something of yourself. And if you go in with an intention, you'll be faced with whatever you kind of intended to if I went in with the intention of like, why am I so anxious when it comes to like the beginning of a project? Why am I so anxious to start stuff? Maybe I subconsciously set up all those stations as part of that like question that I was asking. Maybe I didn't even realize it at the time, but afterwards it made perfect sense that like I put a bunch of tables of stuff I'm afraid to start or get anxious about starting up while I was going on this journey to try to figure out why I get anxious about starting things. And I didn't even make the connection while I was doing it, but like, the intention is super, super important. And that I, from what I hear, and again, like, this is just, I don't have any science on it, but like, from what I hear from people that I've talked to is like, generally the bad trips or the difficult trips are like had at a party where you're around a bunch of strangers and you didn't necessarily go into it going like, oh, I want to figure something out, or I want to be presented something. I want to just have a good time. And then turns out you had something that trip wanted to present to you. And you were not ready. You're not ready to look at that or face it or deal with that right now. But the problem is it puts it into like stark reality for you rather than just like, oh, hey, you're anxious about this. It's like, here's a visual and physical, like almost real representation of the thing you're upset about. And this demon is going to just stand here with you for the party. And it's like, you weren't trying for that. And it sucks. But you just got to get through them. It's not going to kill you. I had a good time, and I got something out of it, and that was the important thing. And then the other thing, like with that game analogy with like the little kid breaking the controller or whatever the case is, like that whole thing, it works on another level as well, because I tend to take myself too seriously in a lot of situations. Like, and that's like a thing I try to work on about me. It's like, I take things too seriously. Like I get so wrapped up in my music or in like the art projects I'm doing, or like whatever business I'm trying to like get off the ground at whatever moment. I get so obsessed with it that like I sometimes lose the fun in the thing that I'm doing. And like, I take it too seriously. And like that showing me like, essentially like life is a game. You're the player and the game. You're the sculptor and the clay. and it's a paradox, and it's something that you can't wrap your head around. But like, the only way to be the sculptor and the clay at the same time is to not take it so seriously. Because if you were taking it seriously, you'd run yourself in circles until you went insane.
It goes with our whole, what you put out is what you get back. So if you are taking it too serious, you're actually like you said, the creator of your game. You know, if we're referencing, and it's funny because you said the whole video game thing, and then we had just talked about it last episode. That was a synchronicity.
Yeah, I watched that episode this morning. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, man. And I'm sitting there going, wow, that's crazy, because really that was kind of the point, is because we have this whole new concept, and it's not so new, but it's becoming more refined as the years go on, and you find new people that take this whole, law of attraction. You get what you give on the energy level, and that's going to create your world and your template. And so you really think about it, and you can go like the whole holy trinity, like, of course, like mind, body, spirit, but also like you could think psychologically, like we just were, like the psilocybin accessed a psychological part. And what that did is change your energy now. So like, I think a lot of people don't go as deep with that, but when you're aware of the energetic rules of life, where it's like, what do you mean when you're saying, you're the sculptor and the clay? Well, it's like, well, no, literally by the energy you're putting out, and obviously stemming from your psychology, is that's projecting, and you have this digital IMAX theater around you, and that's being templated by your energy. So and I'll let you continue your story, but it's like, as you're saying, I took myself too serious. And then imagine the energy when you start to, like when you play a video game and you take the game too serious, you throw the controller at the TV screen. You could break a TV. You could, break your controller. You could never want to play the game again. So many things could happen in that, like little moment of emotion. And so now you take life in that thing, in that same situation, and treat it like a video game, and say, if you're taking it too serious, now you're getting frustrated, you're getting angry, you're getting anxious, you're going to get even depressed because you're like, I can never win. You're putting that energy out. Now on the digital IMAX theater, it's bringing the situations, it's bringing the people, all reiterating and reminding you, and playing out the template you've sent.
Yeah. So. Yeah, 100%. And like, like on that law of attraction thing, like, I believe in the law of attraction, but I think that a lot of people out there simplify the law of attraction a little too much. Personally. People think, so it works one way and not the other. So people like will tell you like, oh, law of attraction. It, if I think about it and I make this vision board, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get a Ferrari. It's just going to fall out of the sky. And that's because I thought about it enough, and I'm just going to have it now. No, what it is you attract everything to you. So if it works that way with negative stuff. If you're sitting in a negative situation, because you don't have to work for anything negative to happen to you. You don't have to put any physical effort into it. You just let that stuff happen. So the more you dwell on it, it's going to hit you. But with the positive things, and you can think about it as law of attraction. You could think about it as prayer. You could think about it as, like, let's say you were thinking about it.
Unique symbols.
It's
whatever
all,
you want to call
just
it.
Symbols, like whatever you want to call it, it's what it is. And the thing is like, think about it. If you were God, and somebody was praying to you, right? And you were all knowing, and somebody said, God, I want patience. I just want to be a more patient person. How do you think God's gonna, how would you give that person more patience? Would you just snap your fingers and go, you're more patient now? You have no way to test that. Or would you present that person with a whole bunch of situations in which they would benefit from being patient, but it's going to be very difficult to be because they're not currently patient? That you would give them the opportunity to be patient. If you said, God, I want to be rich, or universe, I want to be rich, or I'm yelling out into the ether, I want to be rich. Well, is a pile of money going to rain down on me from this? No. What's going to happen is I might get presented with some weird opportunity. I might get presented with a problem. that I have to solve, and that somehow results in me making money. It's presented to you not in a direct manner. When it's negative, I feel like it's presented to you in a fairly direct manner. But when it's positive, and the reason for that is, and we were talking about, I think a little bit before we started the podcast, is balance. Everything's about balance. You know, you put out bad vibes, you get bad stuff back. You put good stuff out, you might get what seems like bad stuff back, but what it is you need to now balance those things. And once you've balanced everything, once you have slapped some good energy on those minorly bad things that got sent, or maybe hugely bad things that got sent your way, if you solve that problem, then comes the good, then comes that balancing out of that yang energy with the yin energy.
Transmutation. You're transmuting it, like
exactly.
How you would, I practice the whole semen retention thing, saving your sexual energy, not blowing nuts everywhere. And the thing is I'll say it like that to lighten the thing, because I know people are
more power to you. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I know, right. And I know every time I'm even like kind of like iffy on reposting, because I know that if someone doesn't know this energy stuff, it's like, it looks like, what's this kid posting about?
Yeah, you look like a kook.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but honestly, all this information, you look like a kook most of the time.
I probably look like a kook right now, but that's fine.
But honestly, in the end, no, because we've opened our minds up to things. And why I bring that up in an analogy is what the goal is for that is you take your drive sexually and you channel it into the positive thing or your goals. So like that, like the transmutation process ends up showing its face over and over and over again in life. So what you're saying is now you've asked for a good thing, and what the universe is gonna do, or God's gonna make you do, is it's presenting something that can potentially be negative, and you have to learn to transmute it. Just like, instead of just flogging the dolphin for 2 minutes and just getting that tension out of you, it's like, no, take that tension and all that energy, bring it up into the body and create a song, or start a business and everything. And it's like, that's
hell, go work out, like do something with it.
So
like
transmute that energy. And I think that's a big thing. And I mean, even in my practices with the retention, is like, I there's times where even, I've noticed the desire starts to become very animalistic, and it starts to now take my mind over. And I think that's due to programming too. So now we're also always programmed to kind of like just peak, what's the, you want things quickly,
instant gratification.
There you go. And now we're trained for that. And a practice like that, or taking cold showers in the morning because you don't want to take one because a hot shower is going to feel great, is you're training yourself to have this discipline, but transmute that energy. So, and it goes in line with your law of attraction.
Yeah. You need adversity. The only way to create something meaningful is to have had to gone through adversity to do that. And whether you're creating something meaningful out of yourself or out of something else, there has to be some adversity. You can't make a pot without setting a bunch of clay on fire. Like that's just the way it goes. Like you can't, you can't write like I don't know, you can't be Simon and Garfunkel without having lived the, like, whatever it was that Simon and Garfunkel went through to like get the inspiration to write the beautiful songs that they wrote. Like, you can't do it.
Kurt Cobain. You can't be Kurt Cobain without all the depression, and in the end, actually shooting yourself in the head because you were so depressed, but you ended up changing a whole culture of music. So all of that tension, all of that adversity. I mean, of course, the ending of his story was, we all don't want to go there. And, obviously his art came at a larger price, but before that, working up to all the music that a lot of us still listen to, it would be from what you're talking about. And what he did is he transmuted his suffering into music. And then also, you don't know who you're helping out in the process too. Now you're making this music because you were feeling you're out of vibration. You ended up channeling it correctly into your art. Now someone hears it, and you could actually save them from doing what he did, because he made a song that said, oh, wow, now I feel like, I'm resonating and this is helping me get through it because you're feeling it. So yeah, you're right, man. The adversity is absolutely necessary. And I mean, even lately with Gio and I has been going, we were talking about these, and I know you go through them too, is these waves. And all of us, you're on the top of the world one day and everything is great. Like we're talking about the podcast and we're talking about, I know I've done this with you. We're going to release this and we're going to mix this song and we're going to get this done. And then all of a sudden it kind of like dies off. And it's like, that's also part of the adversity, is in those moments is your moment to teach yourself to act on those moments.
Yeah. Start working through, like when you're in those moments where you feel absolutely paralyzed by like, so much stuff I have to do. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what to like. And then you just get like, oh, I don't have the motivation to do anything. Yeah. That's the exact moment when you should try at the very least to put some energy forth. The thing is you're going to hit times where you're going to get writer's block or not have motivation or whatever. Sometimes it's okay to just like take a little bit of time to reset, but
meditation.
The trick is, again, balance it. Don't fall into like every day I'm resting and that's my justification. I'm tired, exactly. Like you need to like force yourself to work sometimes. And like I had to do it. Like I over the pandemic, I lost like 60 pounds. And I forced myself to do it. And the thing was, I didn't want to get up and work out. I didn't want to not eat delicious food because I'm a stress eater. Like anytime I'm stressed out, I go and get the most awful for you food that I could think of, like, and I'll binge eat. Like I'll eat like 3 meals in a sitting because I'm stressed about something and then go get to work.
You're running away from the feeling.
Exactly.
The food fills in and masks the.
So
everybody's got
that. Exactly. I had to find new ways to cope with stuff. So it turned into like, and it's little steps that you have to take when it comes to that stuff. But the thing is I think what a lot of people do when it comes to law of attraction or like getting into like, like seeking the truth and all of this stuff, I think one pitfall that people get into is that, so like when you listen to a lot of gurus and stuff like that, a lot of what they're saying is essentially like you're a spiritual being. You are not your body. Your body is simply just a vehicle, like, nothing on this physical plane really exists, that sort of thing. The problem that I have with that, and it's not really a problem, like, because, to each their own beliefs and everything. But what I've found is that, again, that tends to get people and then push them all the way to one side of just the spiritual. And the thing is you are a spiritual being, but the reason I'm telling you you're a spiritual being is you don't know that. I don't have to tell you you're a physical being because you've been one the whole time.
Right. You so wake up and you scratch your ass.
Exactly. These people conflate it and go, oh, I'm not this physical being. I'm just the spirit. No, you're both. You're everything all at the same time. And the thing is you have to give both proper attention. Like you have to
even
give
if you
your
wanted
spiritual side.
But attention, if you wanted to meet halfway though, but I'm just saying, if you wanted to meet halfway, if someone, because I'm hearing, and why I'm interrupting is because I'm hearing people in my head is like, well, no, I am the spirit. It's like, okay, but if you want to say you are a spiritual being, be that, but treat your body like you are the body.
Yeah. Treat your body like you're the body, or treat it like it's a vehicle. I mean, like you have a car.
I had to throw that in there because I hear him.
Yeah.
I hear
but like what I'm getting at is like you have a car, right? Or like, a bike or something. If the wheels are falling off, you're not going to get very far. If you want to say I'm not my body and I'm a spiritual being, and this body's your vehicle to explore this realm of reality, then look at it that way. And you happen to have a vehicle that can upgrade itself. All you have to do is do the actions, like put in the combination of actions and fuel to make your car better. Like if Ray, if you could take your car, and if I told you, yo, man, if you put in like plus ultra fuel in it, in 3 weeks, you're going to be driving a Corvette, because your car is just going to transform into a Corvette because you put the right fuel in it. And you know what? You just got to rotate the tires like once a week.
Right. Well, we're thinking of it.
Do
like
it.
this.
You would do. You'd be like, absolute in 3 weeks. I'll do that for a Corvette. Why not? Like, it's not going to cost me much. It's not going to cost me as much as buying a Corvette. And that's what your body is. Your body, you're putting your energy
into the body, though. So even if you wanted to make it a little more realistic, how about this? Like, you know how you're saying, take the right action. So what it is exert a certain amount of physical energy to make the body better and invest that energy. So just say use it though in comparison of, okay, so I would have to use energy and physical movement to better the body and make decisions. Well, it's more so just say put the energy into the decision making and the action. So that means to better my car, I have to go to work, make the money, use my body and take the action to get the money, bring it back, bring it to the mechanic. And you have to do all these physical things to get that car in the shape or go buy the new car. But you had to exert and work out that wallet to go get that new car. And so like when you're doing push-ups and you're doing that's you at the job making that cash. And every time you do, every day that you're doing push-ups, you're working hours and you're making money, but energetic money. You're building a different type of merit, you know?
And that's the thing, I equate it kind of to the sacred geometry. And this is kind of how I interpret the sacred geometry. So it's like I designed you guys' logo, like the Daily Transcendence logo, and I put that sacred geometry in there specifically because I resonate with it, and I know a lot of people resonate with it. But the way I look at it is this: it's all of these interlocking circles, all this whole geometry. And the way I look at it is that is the web of all of reality. That's like the overarching reality. Each circle, I would personally represent it as a person. And each person has their own little bubble of reality, right? So you're sitting right in the center of that circle, and you have this little bubble. Now, the guy next to you has his bubble of reality. But there are things where they cross over, where you guys can agree these things in the middle of this Venn diagram are real. And that is how we can interface with someone else's reality. And then you have every other person on the planet. So you have 7 billion of these little circles, little reality bubbles, all making little tiny Venn diagrams, creating the web of interlocking circles that you see in the sacred geometry. And those Venn diagram crossovers, all of those together are what we see as our physical reality. And the thing is to say that anything in this physical reality is not real isn't right, because we all created it together. Every human being created it, and it's real and valid in its own sense. And the thing is if you want to believe that you were sent here by a God, or you chose to be here yourself, regardless, you're here in this physical reality. So it's also up to you, if you want to get the best experience out of this reality and learn the lessons that you feel you may have been put here to learn, or teach the lessons that you feel you were put here to teach.
Right.
The way to do that is to have a vehicle that's going to be able to get you there. Like, have good health, eat good foods. The foods that are good and the foods that are bad are that way because the web of reality, the sacred geometry, has dictated it. Like, we put that web together in time immemorium, and that's the reason why good foods are good, bad foods are bad. This will make you fat. This will make you muscly. Doing push-ups is great. Doing 5,000 push-ups in a day will hurt you. It's, again, you got to balance it all out, but you have to kind of interface this spiritual reality, this physical reality, and then your personal reality versus the web of realities created by everyone's personal reality. So you have to understand that every person has some things in their reality that don't compute with your reality. So you have to focus on the things that do compute together. And then use that as the bridge to understand each other's reality. And the only way to effectively take that spiritual lesson and take all of the spiritual things and bring it into the physical is to have a means to do it efficiently. And to me, being healthy is one of those ways, because you look at your physical brain as, let's say, the physical antenna for your spiritual self. Wouldn't you want the best antenna? Your brain functions the best when you have enough nutrients, when you're getting exercise, when your anxiety is low, which your anxiety is low when you exercise. And the reason for that is because you're exerting all of this pent up extra energy that you have, that again, your physical body as a defense mechanism stores energy. It stores energy because, God forbid, a tiger comes, because, that's what our bodies come from, is a race of things that had to run from tigers for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
A tiger comes, I have this pent up energy that I don't even know about. I have this store to run. And, like when a mom flips a car over to get her baby out of there, that's that excess energy that your body is always storing and releases in times of extreme stress. When you don't have extreme stress, like a lot of people, well, yeah, they have stresses, but like we don't have life-threatening stresses in a lot of situations. And when you don't have that, that's when you get the anxiety, because it's pent up and it's never spent. And now years go by and you're basically somewhere in your brain, you're like, something's coming. I'm going to get attacked.
At least we're trained like that. You know what it is?
Exactly.
Think about this, ready? And it's great, because I'm glad you brought that up, because in our last presentation, we do, like I have this whole thing with trying to give people the awareness, like you're saying, of the spiritual. And we definitely put a lot of emphasis on it. But you're right. And I'm glad you're bringing this up, because we really haven't much brought up physicality as an importance, but I think people would know and assume that we do feel that way. But more so is like, we were talking about the reality screen and those reality bubbles. I could tell you listen to the episode, because we were mentioning those reality bubbles we all experience. And you're right. Like the society we live in, though, has conditioned us because everything's so given, or everything's so pampered. Everyone, what's the every kid gets a pass, or whatever the hell that thing is in
trophy
school.
Yeah,
everything, all the kids get rewarded for nothing. And that's the problem, is people are getting rewarded for nothing. But even in the slightest, like you're talking back a long time ago, a tiger was coming, you'd freak out, you have all the reason in the world to be miserable, or well, in that case, anxious and ready to go.
And you have that store of energy to get away from it, or to at least try to.
People don't have it. And that goes back to my point, even with the retention business, is, we're getting rid of our energy constantly. And this goes in line with what you're saying and what we said on the last episode, is what this new concept of, the reality screen, that spiritual screen that we're experiencing in this physical body, is constantly, I think, a big part of the game of life. And this should be emphasized, is the screen, the game of it. And now you could look at it in two ways. The game of it is the screen's always trying to take you away from yourself, or your awareness off of yourself, because it wants to feed on your energy itself. Meaning that if I'm paying attention to a corporation, a job, having to fix my car, constantly focused outside of myself, then I have no energy to work on myself. And I think that's that. Remember, you and Gia were talking about balance before the beginning of this podcast. Is that balance is to know and be aware of when you're doing things for yourself. And we're hypnotized in this society to constantly be focused on the outer screen. We're focused on the physicality, but we're focused on not our physicality. We're focused on social media, what other people look like, what everyone else is doing, and even sometimes at our disposal are like, it's not our intention, but we have to think about our job. We have to think about our spouse. We have to think about our friends. We got to think about family reunions, whatever the hell. And I think, and I like to look at it this way. It's just one of my favorite analogies. And I was saying we had the two ways to see this. Is the darker side of it is potentially because through ancient texts, we're trapped here. And the only way to get out is to actually drop the importance. And that goes along with what you were saying with stop taking everything so serious. And even though that's a negative outlook, it's definitely prevalent in a lot of ancient texts, and it might be the case, the archons, the reptilians, all that. But on the positive side, I would love to look at it this way, and I recommend it to anyone to match and fulfill the combination of what you're saying and what we were talking about with the screen, is seeing it as the part of this video game of life. Is that one, yes, be aware that you are here and be aware of yourself, but what you want to do is beat the game by not letting everything distract you from yourself. That's one of the biggest parts of the game, is knowing thyself, knowing who you are, knowing that you were given the gift of life, appreciating that, and then also having and using that energy, that God-given energy, to physically better yourself, whether it's your health or your decisions in life. And to beat the game, we must focus. We have to obviously make decisions and play with the screen. We have to constantly work with it. It's a give and take thing. But people are so sucked out of themselves, and they're not making decisions for themselves. Like even people with health, somebody might actually go to the gym because they want to look better on their Instagram. And that's the type of society we live in. It's like somebody might want to go write a rap song because they know they're just going to make a buck because it's popular, and they have no real emotions to express. And if they do, it's not what they're doing through their music. So it's that mindset too, is like everything you're saying, absolutely valid, and it holds the exact same importance. But it's where you're coming from and that intention and awareness that you have. And that's why I love the analogy, man. The analogy of the whole, like the screen of how it's constantly trying to take you away from yourself. And that should be the only thing you're worried about. Not the whispering Biden, Jesuit Joe, or not even the Florida thing with the building. And I noticed with the media, they like to push all this negativity on us and whatever. I see that in the positive way, is that's the outer screen trying to constantly take me out of my awareness of, say, my music or my podcast, or me hitting up Gio and having a phone call and seeing how he is, or hitting you up and whatever. And it's like, I'm worried about more so of something that's not in my immediate environment. And that's a sickness. I think that's something that needs to be taken care of.
It's a distraction. And you're right. I honestly think there are things that drain your energy 100%, but I think the root of a lot of anxiety in people, I think the root of it honestly is an excess energy that they don't realize they have, because you're not supposed to realize you have it. I truly think that humans have a store of energy that we're supposed to be unaware of for protection in very stressful situations. The problem is over time it builds, and again, it's somewhere where that we can't naturally just access by thinking, or it's something that we physically have to get out of us. And no joke, like over a year of like exercising regularly, my anxiety is nowhere near what it was. And I truly believe it's because I've taken down that store of I'll call it invisible energy or survival energy that I don't need that much of in a house, so working out and getting that physical bit out there. But I totally agree with you in the fact that, like, you need to kind of focus on yourself. I think Gandhi said it best when he said, be the change you want to see in the world.
Right.
That and I take that not so much as a virtue signal and tell everybody how the world should be. It's actually make changes to yourself, which will cause other people to make changes to themselves, because that's the only thing you can truly change. You can't change other people. You can only change the reality that you're putting forth. And then when it crosses with other people's realities in that Venn diagram, the sacred geometry, when it crosses into those, if you have this overtly positive energy and you really are putting out the level of energy you would like to see other people putting out, you'll start to see them resonate like we were talking about, and send that energy back to you. And then all of a sudden you'll start seeing the net of the world becoming something a little bit more beautiful than it is right now. And I think it's because it's we've muddied the waters a little bit. We've muddied the waters by, I think in the beginning it was a novel and noble intention to, connect everyone. Like, why wouldn't you? The internet's amazing. Like, and I mean, look, we wouldn't be able to do this right now if we didn't have the internet, so there's a lot of good to be had from it, and there's a lot of bad to be had from it. And I think the thing that people need to understand is that it's not going to go anywhere. It's part of the game. And if you want to look at like the whole screen thing in a positive light, the way I look at it, and this is my belief, is that we chose to be in the game. And the reason we have all of this history about the archons or reptilians or secret societies, or like, a good game needs a bad guy,
guys, right? Yeah, like they play the role like NPCs, almost like pre-programmed enemies.
And the best, exactly. Right. And the best games immerse you completely. So what better way to immerse yourself than to forget you're playing the game and truly believe that you're trapped?
The only good thing would be,
and the only way is, again, to realize it's a game, it's a game, and start playing it.
Right. Well, and so, and it's funny because this is, the NPC concept I've been obsessed with too, because it's, and Gio knows, I say it all the time, is like these people might be put here pre-programmed. Like we talked about it, like some souls might not be here to ascend or say become more aware. Like not all life just does have to be about ascension. And my whole definition of ascension is just ascending to new levels of consciousness and awareness. So you could play the game better. And with those enemies, like we listened to this guy Matt from Quantum of Conscience, and he has this whole thing. He's like, the problem with conspiracies and all these bad guys is you can place them all on the stage in this one-way mirror. And it's like, all these theories and everything can work to any of them, and it could end up being any of the bad guys, and you're not going to know who it is because you can find the facts to it. And I feel like another reality distraction is it's going to lay the breadcrumbs to what you want, but it wants you to do that because that's the game. The game is, I'm going to get you away from yourself. And I don't care who the bad guy is, but they are needed. But people are so obsessed with trying to put their finger on the bad guy, and that's actually, to the day they die, they're getting constantly distracted, not going to the gym, not doing their thing, not going to find new relationships, not bettering themselves, because they need to find out if the Illuminati sector in Chernobyl is planning some new disaster, and did they knock down the towers? Did they the place in Florida, or did they whatever? And it's like you could go down all those rabbit holes, and I was one of those people. But then I realized, and I love the concept that those things are placed there not for me to become obsessed with, but to just, everything's always there for you to just self-reflect. What could I do to help myself? And is this going to help somebody else too? Because then now the karma doubles. Now it's like, now it's good. So yeah, you're right, man. Being aware of the physical. I'm glad you brought that up.
Then there's something to be learned from living a life as an NPC too. It might not be something that's so revelatory, but I mean, if you think about it, if you're a soul traveling the infinite universe, and there's this weird little rock where you could learn all these weird little interesting lessons about the universe, all on this one little planet, and all of these different permutations of combinations of people. Like, why wouldn't you go and live your life as an unsuspecting person that just lives a fairly normal life and
makes the game better?
Maybe that has a kid, or maybe doesn't have a kid, and just works a job and passes away and doesn't really inflict change on. I mean, if you think about it, like, more people,
an NPC seems like a purgatory or something.
Yeah,
I mean, like it's like a middle stop of going into this, like the next level would be to not be an NPC. Like, and who's exactly. who knows? Who knows if
you
that's
looked at it linearly, it might be that way. It might be that like you start like when like if you were to look at it from a linear aspect, like when you start as a soul, maybe your first couple of lives that you live are really NPC vibe lives because you got to get used to the basic rules, and then you can start having more wild adventures on each new life. You get to be Jimi Hendrix in one, and you got to be Ted next door in another. Like there's stuff to be learned from all 80 years of Ted's life and all 27 years of Jimi Hendrix's life, and both are valid lessons. And it's like NPC, like I don't think that there's any linear timeline, but I think like if you're looking at it as like if I'm a soul and I'm living all of these lives in different times at the same time, right? I'm simultaneously a young girl in China and a some dude in 2040 and a guy in the 1930s. I'm simultaneously all these people in all these times. You might only have enough energy to make 10 of those lives super wild, and then the rest.
Well,
think about like lives. Yeah, but think about this is a lot of like I think I've gotten almost every question ever asked, like because when you believe something like we believe, and I know we're all we wouldn't be in the same chat for this long if we didn't vibrate on the same frequency. We know we think alike. So, but when people go, okay, so if if there's a God or if the universe works like that, then why does a kid come into life and at 5 years old he gets hit by a car or gets a sickness and a disease and he dies? Like, what is that? Like that? And I think it's actually because what we're saying here is valid. Like that soul could have just been the soul that comes in, lives 5 years, creates a connection with, say, his parents and all that stuff, and the impact of the death actually some type of martyr situation where that death would have supposed to have an effect on the surrounding souls around it. So it's like even that in that whole where are you at on your soul level? Like maybe that's actually a very highly advanced soul where it's like they've done everything else
in one of your final lesson,
right? And one of your final lives, or maybe that's how you start because it's so minimal. But but the thing is that could have one of the biggest impacts on somebody's life is a death. Like my dad passing away, what it did for me, like I got over it pretty quick on the emotional level because I saw it as I learned a lot from him, and I allowed everything to process in my mind as if how could I use it to evolve? And I think that's what death should teach us. Like, and Gio comes from a Christian background, and that's where we started with. I started here and there, and then we started getting closer and closer, astrology and all that. But in the Christian belief, and Gio, correct me if I'm wrong, in a standard Christian belief, they don't believe in reincarnation, right?
I think it's definitely in a different tone. It's more so is that you're believing that the fact that it's because you're going off the Bible and it's saying that when God and Christ make the new world, that it's some sort of transformation. So it's real sticky. And of course, a Christian, when you try to talk to them about reincarnating physically and stuff, that's probably something that they're going to fall short on, being able to, see eye to eye with you there.
There's a reason I bring that up too. Sorry, finish. There's a reason
it's
why.
good. No, it's good though. It's because, I mean, that whole thing of cyclic nature, that's just one way to see, though. We can see that everything has a sort of cycle, and especially this innate intelligence that we're talking about that has this, coding to it, that there's a way of doing things. Like why not? Why wouldn't that happen then with even our own lives and stuff? Why isn't there some sort of regeneration in that sense? So
I have a question actually about this, and it's like a thought I've had when it's on the Christian belief in like death and everything like that. So I was raised Christian, Catholic. So as a kid, anytime I ask people what happened when somebody dies, they're like, oh, they go to heaven. But then I read the Bible when I was older, and you don't go directly to heaven. You basically wait until Judgment Day, and then God takes everybody to heaven at the same time.
Is that both Christian, or I thought that
well,
was
no, that's well, that's
or is
see,
that's the Catholic.
That's
or,
Catholic. That's
okay.
why there's so many different denominations of Christian. Like even Protestant is Christianity, Methodist, all these Orthodox, all these different things are different types of Christians. That's why I mean there is, and where these Christian, the difference between Christian and Catholic is Catholic goes based off of the, you know, biblical doctrines that are based off of what the Catholic Church uses. Mm-hmm. And not only that, that interpretation of it has to come through rites and rituals, and being able to have the Pope depict the Bible for you. You can't do it yourself, or a bishop has to do it and stuff. Obviously things are a little bit different nowadays too, but with Christianity is definitely more faith-based. It's work to God, like work towards God through faith, though. It's not really so much action oriented like Catholicism. And there's a established relationship with God, but you also understand that you have to understand of what Christ, it's really a focus on what Christ's teachings are. And there's so many different, like, that's why, like, I say, like, when you say Christian, like, I can't even like identify myself.
Well, that's what changed.
Christian.
Yeah. That changed like when we started talking.
But that changed before all this, because I understood that the way mainstream, I guess you could say, like even Christianity was, that it still had this Catholic-esque vibe to it. And it's because the simple fact that it's because it also comes from that. It comes from that, and people don't understand that there's certain things. So when you go out, when you start, you're able to go a little more out of bounds than Catholicism when it comes to, trying to discover things, question things, and have an understanding in that way. You're able to do that. But there's a certain point where people are limited. And I think this is just a psychological thing when it comes to in the Christian faith, is because they feel like the heavy importance on a lot of those rules and regulations, I guess you could say, that are in the Bible. They still see it in that traditional sense. And the tradition of it is, like we've gone over in the podcast, like that whole thing of, like, if you were trying to tell a Christian that it's like, oh, well, they say to believe in, in order anybody to get to the Father has to go through the Son, and they have to believe in Christ and accept Jesus Christ as their Savior and everything and stuff like that. And even if you said it in the way, like maybe Ray or me or whatever, if you think about it in that way and say it that, then they'll get like an offense because it's different from what they heard.
That was my point.
And they think it's heresy because the trauma that's just behind religion, organized religion.
But the reincarnation factor, though, why I brought that up, and I want to clear this real quick and you can continue, is like the problem with is a lot of these religions say have a limitation on that outlook of reincarnation. So think about the conversation we just had prior about reincarnation, about how life's a game, about how you come here and do this thing and you return. And in certain religions, block that out of people's minds. So they think this is the last and only life that they have. So that could lead to destructive decisions. It could lead to whatever. And it has such an impact. And it's why, like with the podcast, when we first started, it wasn't like I had a problem with religions, but it was the application. And so if you don't believe in reincarnation, it's crazy to consider that someone thinks this is it. And everything we talked about with that over and over, and you got to come back, and this is a school, and which makes so much sense. And honestly, it's the most logical thing I think anybody can come up with on why we're here. Not that we're trapped by some archons and reptiles, but like you come here to learn and that was like with my intentions of starting to speak on this stuff was not to destroy religions, but to open the minds of them, because I think this conversation, anybody, even if they're not religious or they are, will benefit from that mindset of like, hey, I'm going to come back here. So let me do my best. Let me live my best life to my whatever, but I'll have another chance. I'll go. It's not that I'm just going to go to hell or go to heaven. And I think it's so limiting, and that's,
it is.
That was my point to begin with. So I just had to throw that in there. Like that's a limitation. And I feel like that's even a level that belongs to an NPC then.
I mean, it could also be both, like,
well, yeah,
it could be that, I had something just a second ago. I totally forgot it now. No, what I was going to say is like, it could be both in the fact that like, you know, the reincarnation cycle might be something you do, and like, it might be something you do before you get to where you're going to go. Like, it might be something you have to do. So like, maybe both are right. But the other thing I was going to say is that like, you also have to balance that belief, in like, in the physical world as well. So it's like, I keep losing my thought. I keep losing my train of thought. I'll just let you guys go. I'll think of it in a second. I totally forgot what I was going to say.
It's making me fine.
It's making me think. It's making me think though, because that whole reincarnation cycle, especially with certain different beliefs, like, so to say, Christians, like, I think that it's once again a one track mind with a lot of, so it's hard to talk in the sense of them, because they see it as like, yeah, you're not going to reincarnate on earth as what we know, like, and stuff, like, they don't see it like that. But I think that there is an understanding that they just think that it's, you're going to go to an energetic place, and it may not be heaven.
Yeah.
It may not be heaven. You can be somewhere where, like you said, I think that whole judgment day thing is just kind of set in a different context as well when it comes to Christianity. But like, that's the thing. It's like, when we see how this all affects, we all have our own Taurus field. And it was like you were saying with the patterning and the circles, it's like all our Taurus fields are within a bigger Taurus field, which is within another Taurus field. It seems like, but it's all, yes. And it's just this fractal patterning coming from the center. And it's like, I see it as like, when we're crossing those realities, yes, absolutely. Like, there's things that we're going to see eye to eye on, like, and we're going to both be like, yeah, that's reality, that's this. But there's somebody else that the reality can be a little bit different when you go into step into more of their frequency. And that whole thing with manifestation that we were talking about, like, something I was thinking was, it's not just one thing to just be able to ask for something, or just to be able to, believe in the fact that, oh yeah, believe I have it already and stuff, like, it's something that I think actually needs to be called in. And when we say called in, it's in those ways of raising your frequency to match what the frequency is of that thing that you want. And, but in the sense of, also understanding it's almost like you have to have a respect. You have to have a respect for that intelligence that allows those things to happen, to be able to go on those types of timelines and really invest yourself in a certain emotion and being there in that moment, feeling it, having the intentions and everything. Like, it needs to be called in, and it's not something that we can just, I think,
just choose.
Hey, boom, I'm gonna whatever. Because you got to remember, when you're calling it in, it still somehow has to process into the physical. We are on no matter what, you're on a physical plane.
Yeah. And I just remember the point I was going to make, and it's that in this whole reincarnation thing, and I think understandably, when people hear about reincarnation, I think the knee-jerk reaction is to think like, like, I don't want there to be reincarnation, because either why would I want to go through all this stuff again, or maybe they feel like it diminishes the importance of their life, because it's like, well, it's not the only one I have. But my argument to that would be is that even though it's not your only life that you're going to live, it's the only time you're going to live this specific one. Mm-hmm. This is a wholly unique life, whatever life you're in. It's all wholly unique to every other life. And it doesn't matter how many similarities you have with another person. Not 100% of them are going to be similar, like the same. So you're always going to have this unique experience. So my thing would be like to somebody that like maybe like was, you know, against the idea of reincarnation. And again, I wouldn't push my beliefs on anybody, like, but my thought is, and the way I cope with like my belief in some type of reincarnation is that yes, you get multiple retries of doing different lives and different times and all this stuff, but this is the only time, and again, it's the balance. This is the only time I'm going to be able to live this specific life. And I think what happens is people fall to one side or the other. They either say, this is the only life I have, and then like their whole life is just this anxiety fueled race to the finish because I only get one shot at this and I got to make the very most out of it. But then like you kind of like, you lean all the way to that side, you lose all the joy. Or you have, and I feel like it's more prevalent these days. I feel like most people don't get faced with the fact that they will die one day. Like, and it's not like you might die. It's like you will die. Like everyone will die.
Yeah, that polarity is good. Yeah, it's good observation because it's polarity.
And I think like a lot of people today live their lives in these flippant, lazy manners, and it's almost as if they're expecting to live forever. They're like they have this idea like, I'll get to that some other time. And you kind of have to balance the crazy person that's like, oh my God, I could die at any minute. I need to make every minute count. And a little bit of that guy or girl who's like, I'm immortal and I can do it whenever. And you have to kind of combine it of, I'm an immortal soul that can, and I have plenty of lives to do plenty of things, but at the same time, this is the only time I get to live this specific life, so I better make the most of it while I can. And it's like the fact that I'm immortal takes the edge off of the fact that this is the only shot I get at this one, right. And vice versa. This being the only shot I get at this one makes this life special in the face of an immortal soul.
So having both actually gives you, it actually goes back to your unique, like, how are you integrating it? So it's like what you're saying is great. And I love how you always do have some sort of yin to the yang of any conversation that we've ever had. That's a great observation due to the fact that what that tells me is you could see it both ways. But does it integrate with your consciousness in the way it needs for growth? So even being the Christian who doesn't believe in reincarnation, they actually might live a great life because they go, oh, I'm going to live only one life. So I'm going to make the best of it, not like be this anxious person who's waiting for death and thinks, oh my God, this and that. It's like they could use that as a tool. So it's like,
that's where the Christian's faith comes in. That's where their faith comes in, because that takes the edge off, at least in people that I've known that have been like really happy, successful Christian people. Their faith is like this comfort that they have. So it's like, yes, this is the only time I get to live this life and I have to make the most of it. But at the same time, I know that God loves me and I love God, and I have this like faith-based relationship with God that's going to get me through this, like the anxiety portions of this. So it like takes that edge off of the, let's say, atheist who thinks he's just going to fall into nothing and this is their only life.
That's more anxiety.
That's super anxiety. That's like, oh my God,
I've been there for like a year
into nothingness in a year, you know.
1 year of like atheism like aged me. Actually, no, I haven't aged yet. But like the thing is like I'm saying, like, all right, in my inner world, I felt like that like took 10 years off my life, because I remember when I had no faith in anything, it was like whatever, and it led me to this. And like, and here's an example too, because now we're playing devil's advocate by saying both things. It's like, it goes back to the NPC thing. Like some person might not be as conscious because they're not going to be able to handle it. And we talk about this awakening happening, and people are going to be more aware, and we're going to 5D Earth, and 5D is just a state of mind. Like you're going to be high, whatever. Certain people probably aren't going to ascend because they're at that NPC level of life, to where if they do it, they might go insane. Like I know some of the stuff I've read it and integrated into myself is if I told someone else that wasn't on this level, I'm not saying I'm good or anyone's better. No one's better. I'm just saying, if just integrating an awareness in myself, I see other people that would not be able to cope with the fact that if like I believe, the reincarnation, different dimensions and all that, you need a certain mind for every certain life. And it goes back to who are you, and find yourself and what works with it. That's why, like in this society, It's like, stop having everyone follow and believe the same thing, because you need to go soul search and find your own self, because you're going to find the symbols, movies, music, everything in the physical world that your soul relates to at this point, and God or the universe is going to know, or your higher self is going to know what's best for you by you resonating with it. So it's like, I'll say it simply here. Find what resonates with you and stick with it. It doesn't matter if it's BLM or if it's LGBTQ or if it's Dragon Ball Z or if it's rap or rock, whatever resonates with you. Don't do it because you saw something on a TV screen and your ego kicks in and says, I need to do that because I'll be loved for it. It's like, love yourself for who you are. And that means go find who you really are. And that's how your personal reality bubble will become like a heaven on earth, or at least you'll get the most growth out of this life.
Explore it.
What we do know is there's cause and effect. Like we all know that there's cause and effect. So when looking at like your own life, I mean, I think it would just probably come to mind to be the best interest in yourself to just, making sure you're thinking, feeling, and acting the right way in this lifetime. And what's like, okay, well, what is the right way? Well, having that balance, that journey towards something more harmonious, that's more of embodying peace and love within yourself. But that's the thing. It's like making sure that it's not just material. Once again, having that balance, and it's the journey towards that. And I do think, though, that there is a possibility, and we see it with obviously all religions. They all have some sort of heaven or Shangri-La or this or any, and many beliefs, and even spirituality, that there's this ascension process that where it's like you don't come back to this earth and stuff. And like that could very much be so, that there is an opportunity, because, and if it's going to happen where something needs to be a cause into the effect of being able to ascend to this heaven or whatever, nirvana, Shangri-La, whatever, like obviously there's a good possibility it's coming from how you're conducting yourself in the reality of being human, in the reality of earth, and the reality of that whole thing. So why not find the best ways to utilize that? And I think it's real obvious once you start going in that direction. It's real obvious to understand that, things like this, and understanding frequencies, and understanding, emotions, and how emotions convert to energy. And when you have that understanding, you then can start to see how your own, feelings are creating important, this reality for you,
powerful,
and helping you manifest things you want or don't want.
Even if you're Christian.
Yeah, exactly. And then it comes to the point where Catholic, it allows you to live a better life for yourself, because then you're like, oh, okay, I'm having more of this awareness of myself. Now I'm understanding, okay, these emotions that I'm having, where are they coming from? And you obviously know that it's like, oh, well, because of something that, you're thinking, and then where did that thought coming from? Why are you looking at the situation like that? You understand it's your beliefs. And when you start to break that, and you're breaking all these things down to the point where now you're at a certain point where you can understand your body. And we all know that, and scientific proof shows it. And a lot of it, what Joe Dispenza talks about, Bruce Lipton especially, our body is capable of self-regeneration in many ways. And there's many links to us being able to consciously do these things as well. So being able to link up all parts of the physical and the body, and then the magic, I guess you could say, that happens within the ether and within our mind, that's just more reason for you to open up to it and be like, okay, I understand that this is bigger than the physical, and I don't need to let that outer screen consume me in ways. And now you're able to tell when or how or if it's consuming you, or if you're too far away from your own, physical reality.
Yeah, it's true. It's 100% true. And like, I think the main thing is you need to explore your own reality before you go venturing out
Definitely.
into everyone else's. And unfortunately, we live in a time where everyone's reality is in your face, even when you're by yourself. You have your phone in your pocket, and you can just go look right into everyone else's and into the parts of their bubble that they let be seen, which is also a screen on top of a screen, like it's the screen
Illusion.
that person, the illusion that person is putting up, uh so that your illusion receives it. It's weird. But I always think about be the change you want to see in the world, and it's really like explore your reality bubble. And the thing is once you know yourself, like once you like have a handle on like what your tendencies are, and only you'll know if you're being honest with yourself about it. You don't necessarily have to be honest with any other person about it. You could just think to yourself, really understand what are the things that you would consider flaws, what are the things that you would consider good, understand how they work together, and then from there's no wrong answers. You can literally explore any facet of life from there. And as long as you know where your limitations are, that maybe you have an addictive personality, and there's certain things that maybe you should stay away from because you'll have some sort of adverse effect. Okay, great. You won't know to not try certain things unless you know that thing about yourself. And if you don't know that thing about yourself, a lot of times you find yourself experimenting with things that are going to be fruitless for you or going to be detrimental to you. So yeah, like know yourself, like figure yourself out before you go and try to virtue signal on anybody else or tell somebody else how things should be. And I can say for myself, I'm doing that. Like I'm certainly not done. Like I just today I broke into a full body sweat trying to just untwist a jar of pickles, and it wouldn't untwist, and I literally almost broke the pickles all over, like in my kitchen. Like I almost broke the jar. So I was so mad that I couldn't open this stupid jar of pickles. So like right there, I'm like, okay, obviously I'm not fully completed with my journey.
The pickles got you.
The pickles got me. Like I'm not done with my journey yet. The pickles are still an issue. But like I know these things about, like I know certain things about myself, and now I'm able to go and further my exploration into like other facets of the world because I know certain things about myself. I know that I have an addictive personality, and I know that when alcohol gets involved, I become a different person. So now I know, don't drink and become like an asshole, like, like control yourself, know your limits, but like do that with everything. Obviously it's, everybody figures out their limits pretty early on with drinking. And, some people keep deciding to push past them. Some people go, okay, I know how much I should drink, but like, do it with everything. Do it with work. Do it with the music you listen to. Like, don't pigeonhole yourself. Explore safely about your reality, so then you're better prepared to explore other people's realities without hurting yourself in the process.
Yeah, you're finding different aspects of yourself by doing that. It's like you use
exactly.
like the physical world to have it mirror back to you what is actually in your soul and in your frequency, in your consciousness. You're using this to, use it, even like just our feelings itself is like, if you weren't in this body and had emotions and felt pain and all that, you wouldn't gain anything, so that's the whole point. And so even but with me, like, dude, I jump from like metal to rap to electronic to this and that. And what does it do? If I hear the right song and the right genre at the right time, all of a sudden I can get like a little dopamine high, and I'm like, wow, I need, and almost like,
Absolutely.
you got like late or something after, like, wow, I like needed that. Holy shit. Like that.
Yeah.
It happened to me today, actually. Every shit was getting a little stale, and I put on an Era song, and it's metal, it's one of my normal metal bands, but I haven't listened to them in a while. It's like my subconscious was having a withdrawal. And then I put on the song, and I'm like, holy shit. And it's like a song I've heard 1,000 times, but like it's been so long. And so, like, right, whether it's something familiar or not, explore. And there's another, I say you could staple that to the top, like self-awareness, but explore as well.
Yeah. Explore yourself, explore the world. But yeah, don't go running out into the world before you figured out where your jacket is, like try to get the basics down and then head out the door.
I'm 31, and I'm basically I think I'm at a point where I'm like, yeah, I definitely know I got it. Like, I'm not saying I have life figured out, but, and you're like 2 years on me, 33?
I'm 30. How old am I? I'll be 34 next month. Yes, I'm 33 right now.
And you're probably around the same mindset as me. I know Gio, same thing. I know he's kicking some more of the younger years stuff when it comes to even his like career and where he's living. But like we're all like hitting that point, and we're in our 30s just about. And sometimes it takes kind of like that long, but that's just what it takes. Like no rush.
Yeah. There's no time limit on like when you should be doing these things or when you should be coming into the prime of your life. Your prime of your life is whenever you make the prime of your life. Our parents would have said that you're at the prime of your life in your 20s. People today are hitting their stride at 35, 40. In 20 years, people might be hitting their stride at 50, 60. And, like, who knows? Or, everybody's different, and everybody has, their own set of parameters that need to be met before certain things are learned. Everybody has their own set of parameters that need to be met before they get fed up with a bad situation and try to make it good, or vice versa. And that's why it's important to explore yourself before going out on these like crusades that I see a lot of these people running out and like joining a tribe, essentially, like whatever tribe it is, left or right or up or down, or, this group or that group. You see a lot of these people flocking to these tribes before a lot of them have really explored their own reality. So now they get like, like you were talking about pendulums in one of your most recent podcasts.
Love it.
Great
concept.
You get these people that haven't yet created a pendulum, like a home-based pendulum is the way I would describe it, is figure out what it is you by yourself are. That's your home-based pendulum. This way you can jump over to other pendulums, but you have a jumping back point if things get wild. If things are like, oh, this is not the pendulum I was supposed to be on. As it swings back, you just hop on back to your home pendulum and regroup and figure something else out. The problem is a lot of these people are getting swept up into these things, and now their entire identity is tied up and intermingled in this tribe identity. And that's not external, the way to be an individual, like, you become part of a hive mind. And the beauty of humans and humanity is that we, again, have the yin and the yang. We have the individual reality and the hive mind reality. And we get to choose and go back and forth between them at our leisure. That's right. Our power that no other animal has. Every other animal is either part of the pack or they die. We get to get either or, and we get to fluidly move in and out of these tribes, and that's the power of humanity. So we need to create our own home-based pendulum and make it strong and make it positive and make it something that you want to be part of by yourself. This way you can go and explore all those other worlds that are all around you, and you have somewhere to retreat back to if those worlds end up being something that don't vibe with you.
Right. And you want to actually gain energy from your pendulum, like
Exactly.
a lot of these. And for someone who didn't watch the last episode, pendulum is basically this concept and idea that in the ether, that when we think a bunch of thoughts and make decisions and label things, it ends up kind of turning into this energetic structure that our consciousness gets like a chord to. And then so all those thoughts and all those ideas and everything are kind of like, look at it in this like compact box, and we have a chord to it, and now we're constantly connected to it, and we're downloading thoughts all the time from just that same pendulum. But what it does is it actually takes the energy back. And if you're not vibrating with it and thinking on the same frequency, it doesn't like that. Oh shit, I got to change my camera. But yeah, it doesn't like that. And so now the pendulum is feeding off of you. And so what you'd want to do is create this concept for yourself, like for you, in a sense, by creating your own pendulum. What that would mean is define everything as you are. And then what it's going to do is going to allow you to actually feed from, like you'll gain the energy back because you created it, instead of having somebody else's feed off you and eat you up.
100%. I agree, man. That's what you got to do. You gotta have your own little pendulum. You gotta have, and you got to be gaining from the things that you involve from. Don't put yourself in a situation that is draining you. And and if you find yourself in that situation, get out and find some, because there's billions of people on this planet. You can find a group of them that are gonna resonate with you and give you energy, and you're gonna give them energy, and it's gonna be this beautiful symbiotic relationship that like it benefits everyone involved. And the problem is a lot of people are getting swept up into these things, and they think like they're going in with good intentions. A lot of these people on all of these different sides are going in with the intention. I don't think anyone is getting involved with any group on any side without the idea of, I'd like to make the world a better place, and it might be warped, like how they're deciding to go about it. But the thing is the intention was there. The problem is they haven't figured themselves out well enough to not lose themselves in these things. And it's unfortunate to see, and it's a lot of young people getting swept up. And I'll be honest with you, I'm sort of glad that there wasn't anything as wildly polarizing going on when I was like in my 20s. I mean, there was stuff, but like, I don't know, it seemed a little bit easier to navigate when I was younger. And like today, honestly, if I was young, like trying to figure myself out today, I don't know I'd be able to do it. Like I would have a hard time. I fell into some bad pendulums without social
all
media,
the distractions. That's what it
strangling me, so like
too many carrots being floated above everybody, like, oh,
it's too tempting to and then you're watching all these people that are just showing you this little snippet of what they want you to think their reality is, and now you're like comparing yourself to this thing that doesn't really even exist. And it's just like, like it was starting when I was like, like we had like MySpace and like Facebook, and
I remember
in the beginnings of Facebook, but like nothing like, like by the time Instagram came out, I finished, like my frontal lobe was done developing, so I was okay. But like, God forbid Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok was around when I was
dude, I still
God knows what I'd be doing right now.
I haven't done the TikTok thing.
Yeah,
I can't.
Straight up. I made myself a TikTok account and I deleted the app off my phone after. Like it enslaves your mind. It's bananas.
Destroys your attention span.
Dude, destroys is not even the word. Like within seconds, the idea of having an attention span is just gone from your mind.
Right. In that reality, it's got you shit. The whole world, if it used TikTok daily,
out of control.
Attention spans would, right. It'd be like never living in the moment, constantly fluttering through realities like, let me change my mind. And then it's stimulation too. So you're like, if something's not stimulating, it's like, oh, on to the next. Oh, and
it's a time sink too, like, because everything is so quick and you're just flip. All of a sudden, an hour and a half has gone by, and you're like, I've just been flicking videos. Like, what? No more of this. Like, this is far too unproductive.
It sucks you in.
Yeah,
that's why the music, dude. That's why the music, the way like people like music nowadays, is they want that quick fix and that instant gratification comes from things like TikTok. And that's why you want a song to hit the chorus in 15 seconds, hit the breakdown right after the chorus, and go and hit all the peaks with no depth and real thought. And you have to sit down and listen to something, or it's crazy. And it's where we're at, but it can be changed, and it takes people like us. And it goes right back to the beginning where we were talking about our arts and all that and stuff, and the artists have the power. The podcasters and the researchers and the people who are powerful thinkers and creators have the power. And it's like the people right now that have the most attention or most say like credentials and stuff, they're not, from what my eyes is, no. So if they are out there, which they are, they're not doing the best job, or they need more help. And I think that would be a goal. Why we're doing the podcast, probably it's why you're doing music along the side of fulfilling your own self. Obviously your self-developing goals and all that. But like that we have the power, man. The artists and the creators have all the power.
Yeah, 100%. It's really time to start just showing up for yourself and knowing how to show up for yourself. And not be afraid to question and to explore certain things, and facing your own heart-based reality, what pent up shit you got in there and stuff too, and being able to set everything else aside sometimes in order to do that. Like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen from time to time still, no matter what place you get yourself to. It's always going to be there, but the more you face it, the easier it gets, I guess you could say. But it also just starts to become muscle memory with certain things, and you're able to take it to the next level.
And it should be said that like none of what we're saying here like is, but like, it's not by any means impossible, but it's by no means like just an easy thing to do.
It's not TikTok.
It's not. Mm-hmm. It's not TikTok. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some work. It's going to take a little bit of adversity. You have to work through some shit, but you're going to get through it. You will. If you stick to it, you have the ability to get through it. You have the power to get through it. The human mind and body and soul are capable of such ridiculously amazing things. It's mind-boggling what a person is capable of doing. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is look at a history book and find all of the wonderful, incredible people that and like go read some biographies of some people you admire, honestly. Because you'll get some insight into like how they did it. Maybe you'll get an idea of how maybe you can do some things, because there have been wildly successful, genius, amazing people that have come from the hardest and most difficult situations. And the difference is you have to be willing to put that work in, and it's going to suck. But the thing is what you have to understand is you're not alone in it. There's a whole community of people that are on that same journey and at different levels of the journey. And, if you can find yourself some support in that, it makes it that much easier. Like, I found Ray when I needed, I needed somebody to kind of like reintroduce me to the spiritual side of things, because I had leaned, like, I was a pretty spiritual person, and then I kind of like started leaning more just towards my ego and towards the physical. And then I met Ray, and it reopened a lot of these doors that like were opened in my 20s. And then, I took what I needed from them. I decided, oh, you're an adult now and you got to be analytical about everything. And then like I went down a path, and it worked for a little bit, but then I noticed that I was like getting unhappy, and it took meeting a friend that was on that same wavelength as me. And then like, it took me opening my mind back up and going like, hey, maybe I do start looking into some of this stuff. And it's not so much that like you should look into this stuff and be like, all right, this is the answer. Cause anybody that's telling you they know the answer is lying to you. Cause nobody's found the answer yet, you know, like, so
subjective.
Exactly.
Listen, these guys are running around. Yeah.
It's all right.
They've been in Florida this whole time, so they just got back. Now they're
geez. All right.
Yeah. But listen, good talk.
Absolutely, man.
Let's definitely talk again.
Yeah, if we 100%.
Honestly, what we'll do is, it's perfect. It's 10 o'clock. We'll call it. And honestly, that was a perfect note to end on. You're right. You know, it's subjective, but find your own truth. Find the thing that inspires you. Go read the stories that you're not alone. It's not going to be easy, but guess what? While you're doing the hard work, have that end goal in your mind and know where you're going towards. And that's it. And follow your passions and tune into yourself. And that's all you need to know. And so when we have these conversations again, we'll do it every now and then. It's a good frequency to tap in for us three and obviously people listening. So, and thank you for doing this, Charlie.
I'm all for it. Anytime you guys want me on, I'm all for it. If your listeners are interested, they can check out Veronica Vaughn at VV Band NJ. Veronica Vaughn Band. The links will be in there. And then also if you're interested in like some, just like digital art. And then like, I'm going to be putting my solo music out under this project. It's Almost a Ghost Media. I do commissions. So if anybody wants to directly hit me up, we could talk about, any type of art you want to do. And then I've got stuff up on Etsy with Almost a Ghost Media that you could go buy, prints of now. So
perfect.
Yeah. Hooray.
There you go. Furthering the creativity.
He
Always.
did our logo too.
Yeah.
So if you want just a glimpse, and of course you gave your Instagram and I saw it, and I didn't know he had the talent he did with that. I knew he was a musician, but so obviously an easy guy to talk to. So hit him up if you need anything. Once again, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
We appreciate you, Charlie.
My dude.
Appreciate you guys.